Hi everyone, welcome to Random Thoughts with Alex. On July the 1st, 2025, about 2 weeks ago at the time of recording, a new interstellar object was discovered. The object was named 3I Atlas. It was discovered by the Atlas telescope in Chile. It's only the third such object discovered after 1I Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. Let's take a look at what we know about this new object so far and compare it with the other two. It's still far away, about 4.5 astronomical units from the Sun and 3.5 astronomical units from the Earth. So we can't say much about it yet. We will know more about it in the months to come. The object is very bright, and that can mean one of two things. It is either very large or it is a comet with a developing coma. It is most probably a comet, but let's not discount the possibility of an asteroid just yet. If it's a comet, then it's probably like Borisov, just larger. What's remarkable though is that Atlas has a reddish hue similar to trans-Neptunian objects. That is something Borisov didn't have. If Atlas is not a comet, then all bets are off, just like with Oumuamua. If it's an asteroid, then it would have to be huge, on the order of 20 kilometers or 12 miles in diameter. The probability that we would see an interstellar object that large in our lifetime is very small. So for the time being, the chances are overwhelmingly in favor of Atlas being a comet. Atlas is moving very fast, about 60 kilometers per second, much faster than either Oumuamua or Borisov at this distance from the Sun. The trajectory of Atlas in the Milky Way suggests that it's an old object, or at least ejected from an old star system 7 to 8 billion years old. That is 2 to 3 billion years older than the solar system. At its closest, Atlas will be 1.36 astronomical units from the Sun, which is closer than Borisov, which approached to about 2 astronomical units from the Sun, but not nearly as close as Oumuamua, which had a perihelion of about a quarter of an astronomical units from the Sun. 1.36 astronomical units is closer to the Sun than Mars, but not by much. In fact, Atlas will approach Mars fairly closely, about 0.2 astronomical units. That's not quite as close as Oumuamua approached the Earth, about 0.13 to 0.14 astronomical units. Atlas will also pass fairly closely to Jupiter, about a third of an astronomical unit. What is disappointing is that Atlas will pass by on the far side of the Sun relative to the Earth. That means we won't be able to observe it during its closest approach. Is there anything unusual about Atlas? I mentioned the reddish hue, which Borisov didn't have, but we shouldn't make too much of that. Reddish comets are not unusual. The comet Halley was even redder than Atlas. What is unusual, though, is that no spectral lines of outgassing have been observed yet. This is very strange because an image made with the Very Large Telescope, shown here, shows that Atlas has a coma. I know, Very Large Telescope, it's a very creative name for a telescope. Anyway, maybe the outgassing has only just started, but then why is it so bright and why does it have a coma? For that reason, I think that we should be open-minded in our hypotheses about Atlas. What's also unusual is a detail about its trajectory that I haven't mentioned yet. Atlas is very close to the plane of the ecliptic. That is the plane where the planets are located. Atlas is at an angle of only 5 degrees from that plane, and that has drawn the interest of Avi Loeb, the famous Harvard astrophysicist. He estimates that the probability of such a small angle by coincidence is only 1 in 1,000. He suggests that this might be an indication of a deliberate targeting from an extraterrestrial intelligence. What do we make of that? Not much, I would say, at least not for now. When you calculate a lot of properties of an object, it is not surprising that one of them has an unlikely value. So, 1 in 1,000 in and of itself is not yet something to be excited about, but it is small enough to raise interest. It's worth to take a closer look to see if it has any other unlikely features. For instance, if it turns out that Atlas is not a comet, then it would be justified to be more speculative in our hypotheses. In an earlier video, I argued that Oumuamua could be a technological object, just because it's such an unlikely object. I'll include a link to that video in the description. For now, I don't think the trajectory of Atlas near the ecliptic plane is indicative of a deliberate targeting. And my reasoning is the following. We have only been looking for interstellar objects in the past decade, but we have been looking for comets from the solar system for centuries. And we look for them in the ecliptic plane because that's where we expect to find them. If objects were being thrown at us in the ecliptic plane, then we would have found one long ago. The fact that this is the first time we find an interstellar object in the ecliptic plane probably means that such an object is very rare and that Atlas is just a fluke. And that's my preliminary conclusion. It's just a comet, but with a remarkable trajectory. But if it turns out that Atlas is not a comet, then all bets are off. That's it. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.